Good afternoon. We're live. Paul Gagliotti, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Shawn. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries. Maybe the story today should be about that smile that you had when the intro music came on. Did I surprise you?
I was digging it. I was taken back. I'm very impressed with the setup. It was good stuff there, Shawn.
All right, good, good. And so that sort of leads us to maybe some things that we're going to talk about today. Well, obviously education is something that we're going to talk about, but like diverse talent. I
Mm,
think it's pretty important. Don't really have a story about this. Well, I do, but I don't think I want to talk about it yet. But and I'm sure we're going to touch on some things like this. But oftentimes, Paul, when folks don't understand kind of who you are and it doesn't fit the status quo, things that have been done. Our industry's aged out in regards to the mortgage industry, or aging, I should say, right?
right,
And
right,
so
right.
we
Not
often
quite yet.
rely on stuff that's been done, for the last 30 years or often, forever. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's just like, well, it's always been this way and this is the way it's supposed to be done. And we won't, we're not open to change. And so, I feel really good about the sort of liberation that I have being a business owner, but also like doing mortgages in a way that's cool and with purpose and doing it our way. And so, hence the intro,
Yeah.
because I guess it could have been a little different or whatever. But lots of times it's funny because people don't expect a mortgage CEO to pop on and have a little hip hop tune coming in on the back end, and just being a little bit more authentic than others. I can't say that I'm the only one out there that works this way or believes that way, but I'm very anxious today to have a conversation with you. And we're going to be talking about how education opens up pathways to the specifically to the mortgage industry for diverse talent, and then we'll get into some other things as well. But before we get started, Paul Gagliotti with Access Lending Academy, tell us
Sure.
who you are, what you do, and we'll start our conversation.
I feel like that's a loaded question. Somebody just sent me an email and said, exactly who are you and what do you do? And there's kind of a lot to unpack there. By trait, I'm an operator. I love efficiencies, I love planning, and I take that to another level and I love cultivating. I'm a firm believer in creating, and you use this word authentic, and creating an authentically aligned journey for the customer or our consumers. And the most efficient, effective, and happy way to do that is to provide your internal team with the very same journey that the consumer has. Because then your team becomes part of it and they get involved in it, and you're empowering your team. And so if you run that off of education, and you use education as the catalyst for that empowerment and growth, it kind of becomes an unstoppable, right? So, as a COO, I'm very hands on the pulse. I'm a very hands on the pulse leader. I touch my hands on every function on a daily basis. Drawing docs, doing post closing, processing loans, jumping in and doing the lock desk. And that keeps me abreast. It's kind of like, Shawn, for kids and anybody listening who has kids, you want to get involved in your kids' life, right? You want to see who they're hanging out with at school. You want to see what they're doing after school. And so you start to incorporate kind of yourself in their lives as much as they'll let you. But that's so you can really be a part of the experience and understand what's going on in your team members' lives, and how their work is. So I think first and foremost, as a leader, my number one job is to ensure the success of every single individual I interact with on a daily basis. Not only the individual, but their teams, their departments, and then you create a successful company. So oftentimes as a leader, I look at it from a different angle, as opposed to how much volume have we done? How many units have we done? That's important.
Right.
But first, you have to build the foundation that creates that volume, that creates that unit. And that's part of, that personality trait that I've got, that outlook on work world, if you will, that I have. is part of what led me down the path for the creation of our nonprofit Access Lending Academy. Because I saw, as you were saying in the opening, Shawn, there's so much opportunity in this industry. Our industry is about opportunity. It's about home ownership. It's about first-time home buyers. It's about providing opportunity through financial wealth. So we need to make the team and the operators and the people that create that product aware of the opportunity. And really, what better way to do it than via education? Now, as you were saying, your opening line, we're aging out super quickly. And I'm not necessarily saying that I'm old or that you're old, Shawn, but we've all been in the industry for a while and we're aging out. And what is starting to happen to our industry is we're feeling that effect. And we're feeling the disconnect between our consumer and the people that are working in the industry. And my personal opinion on that and the purpose of that happening is because there's no point of entry into the industry, right? We all fall into this industry, right? Shawn, how did you get into the industry?
Well, honestly, a friend of mine introduced me to the industry. I had no experience at
Okay.
all. I'd purchased a home before, but there was a friend that was already in the industry that brought me into the industry. I honestly speaking, if it weren't for him, I don't think I would have ever entered the mortgage industry. I had no idea, honestly speaking, that was a real thing. Like, obviously, I guess I did because I did get a
Right. You
loan
had a,
before from a bank.
yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't a career path that I think I would have chosen.
Right. So, and that's the story that so many people tell. I slipped into it by accident, a friend, a family member. And so, as an operator, I'll say my passion, my side hustle, my side gig is our nonprofit Access Lending Academy, which its purpose is to bridge the DE&I and education gap in the mortgage lending industry. We provide that point of entry to diverse individuals by way of education.
Got it, got it. And so I suppose I should have started off too, Paul. Lending with Purpose is the name of our live stream, and it's conversations with clients and friends,
Yeah,
introductions to various forms of information and professionals like yourself, resources that we use, and my company Fortis Mortgage is going to be using, or we've already engaged with you in regards to the resources that you provide,
yeah,
that we look for that we never knew existed or wanted to learn more about. And so here we are. So you mentioned two things, and I think we're going to go there today. You said education and
yeah,
diverse individuals, which is DE&I, right? And
yeah.
so let's talk about the education piece first. Why is that important? And then we'll lead into the DEI conversation as well.
Yeah, so that's a great question. I mean, everybody hears that education is so important, right? And the reason why, and I didn't really understand this honestly until I started building out Access Lending Academy. The difference between education and training is monumental. Training is very situational, right? So, and we all have this in our industry, and I know you know this, Shawn, where if somebody pops into your amazing culture, I love your team at Fortis Mortgage. They're absolutely amazing. I've so enjoyed working with them. But if
Thank
you
you.
bring someone into Fortis Mortgage or any other mortgage company, 90% of those individuals, if they're new to your company and culture, or if they're new to the industry, they're going to get trained on their function. They're going to get trained on how to be a processor or how to work a lock desk or how to draw a set of docs. And that training is great for that tunnel, for that function, right? But it becomes just that. It becomes tunnel. It gives that individual almost tunnel vision because they're not understanding the entire process. So when we educate individuals on the industry itself, you're accomplishing many key facets within building that strong foundation. You're empowering your team because you're saying to your team, I believe in you. I know you understand this, and I know you're going to grasp this. So you're empowering them. So just right off the bat, you're saying to your team members, you're going to go the distance. Two, you're creating the concept, which is super important to me, especially as an operator, of understanding cross-function training and cross-function department. So we all know that the manufacturing process of a loan is just that, it's a manufacturing process. And it should go down
That's right.
the assembly line this way, right? Now we have hiccups every once in a while and it backs up, but then it, reboots and goes forward. And so what's really important is, you go from A to B to C. And in order to be really diligent and detail oriented, if you're doing the B function, you should understand what the function before you was, the A function, and what the function after you is going to be, the C function. And there's two reasons behind that. One is because if you understand what happens after you touch the file, you might do your job a little differently. You'll have respect for the person after you that's doing the job, and you'll understand why they need certain aspects of it done. Number two, you're grooming that individual for leadership role, right? You're saying to that individual, again, empowering them, you're saying to that individual, I know you can understand this. I know you can do this. I want you to understand it all. And then we're going to move forward and see how far you can get. And if, it supports this culture and environment of the leadership team saying, we believe in you, we trust you, we want to hear your ideas. How can we change your function, what you do to support what happens after your function or what happens before your function?
Got it. Got it. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And once I started looking at the mortgage process as a manufacturing process,
Yeah.
it became quite clear, and it made things work a lot more efficiently. So, but also, I think it's important too for companies, when you have that manufacturing process, you put the right people in place, right?
Yeah.
To support that process, because there also has to be a human element and a human touch in regards to how people go through this process. And so, um, in regards to the education piece, how important is that part in what I just said on the latter piece, like in regards to the putting the right people in the right seats on that bus, or I should say, on the conveyor belt, so to speak, to work the
Yeah.
operation.
I kind of like the bus idea because it's kind of like when you said that, I was like, we're going on a trip. Let's hit this up and see where we
Yeah,
land,
I wanted to stay. I wanted to stay with bus, but I'm thinking about us actually building a bus.
Yeah.
And when we say a manufacturing process, but let's stick with the bus and getting on the right seat on the bus.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Uh, so, it's funny that, especially in the land of operators and even in production, right? You see, we've all seen this. Somebody will come in an operation role and then they transition to a production role and vice versa. Again, that concept and idea, especially in our industry, because we're about opportunity and education is opportunity. Um, Providing that education will help individuals understand um, where their personality skill set best fits within that manufacturing process. So when you bring someone into a company and you put them in this position, you interview them for them, you interview that individual for this position, and there seems to be a desire to do it, on both ends, right? So the employer and the employer are into it, and this individual is trained in that function. They might be trying to fit a round hole in a square peg because they want the job. And they might not understand, if they're trained versus educated, on the variety of other possibilities within the industry. So if you have someone
Mhm.
that's super analytical and really likes math, they'll be okay as a processor, right? Because you have to, calculate assets, DTI, income, etc. But if somebody were to come to me and say, I'm basically a mathematician, I want to work in the industry, me being educated in the industry and knowing the industry, it's secondary market. That's a lock desk job, right? It's capital markets,
Mhm. Mhm.
because that's all numbers. So I think that concept of education, not only does it do all those amazing things, the holistic side where it's really empowering and it supports the employer in understanding, building out, paths for individuals to grow into. But I think the education concept, as opposed to training, so educating individuals, also supports them in understanding where do they belong within the role. And we've had that with many of our graduates at Access Lending Academy. Handfuls of them have come into the program, thinking that they wanted to go into funding or whatever the case is. And some of them are being hired by some fintech companies to do quality assurance, to work the lock desk, a job that's completely different because their eyes have been open to, I'll say it again, all the opportunity that our industry has to offer. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense with the opportunity piece, and also, just fitting the people in the, again, we said the right seat, but would you say square peg into a round hole? Not try to
I
do
think I
that.
said that. Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I might have screwed
I
that up.
always mix, yeah, and I always mix it up anyway. The two, and then I get it wrong the first time every time, and then I'll have to come back and correct myself. But
Yeah.
you said it right, and I'm tracking. So, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Let's get on that. Like let's talk
Ooh,
about it.
that's a big
It's
one.
something that, yeah, it's something that recently, like, we've put some focus on. I
Yeah.
think we should have been focused on this a long time ago, and it's to be quite honest with you, it's sort of sad that we have to use, that acronym.
I know.
You know what I mean? It just should be what it is. But oh well. So
Yeah.
let's talk about that piece of importance. You and I touched on this in another conversation, but um, I know I've sat in some rooms before, and I didn't agree on some things that were said in the room, and I never really spoke up. And the reason I didn't speak up is because I didn't feel like that if I did speak up, anyone would understand. Right? It had nothing really to do, well, it did have something, but not all the way I looked. It was more about the whole thought process and maybe thinking outside of the box, or coming from a different background or a different experience, right? Because it's
Right.
not always about how you look, right? Um, and it's about the experiences that you've had. But, like, let's speak on that and why that is important to you and your organization, and why we speak on diverse background.
Yeah, well, it's important on so many levels, and you touched on some of them, and firsthand just as well as I do, the importance of it. It's the entire purpose at Access Lending Academy is to drive for, cultures that are more inclusive, to support diverse individuals, and we do that through, as we were talking about, education. And as we're doing that, the individuals that are learners or students within Access Lending Academy, we also provide a really robust wellness program. And I think this is really interesting and so needed, regardless if you're diverse or not. But as diverse individuals, and Shawn, I think you might be able to grab onto this. We diverse individuals have been placed in this box, and we're either placed in this box for the most part, either by society or by ourselves. We oftentimes we place ourselves in this box because of our differences, and there's something
Let me
psychological.
stop you. Let me stop you real quick, Paul, and I
Yeah,
apologize for interrupting.
no, no,
But
absolutely.
you say we. What are diverse individuals? Like, what do we categorize diverse individuals being?
Well, it's
Because
I
I
mean,
think there's also a misconception, because we typically go to the race part, right?
yeah,
That's what
yeah, yeah.
typically happens. But, like,
Mhm.
what if you had to put diverse individual
Yeah.
in a box? Like, what would it look like?
Well, those people in the box,
Yeah,
they're
those
different
people in the
individuals.
box.
Yeah, yeah. It's race, religion, economic. Economic, where they are economically, fiscally, sexual orientation, gender identification, origin, where they're from. It's basically, anyone that has a different way that they live their life, that's either external color as you, or internal, as me, actually. Someone that, as a gay individual, you can't, well, you might be able to kind of tell, but you can't really tell by looking at me, but it's something, internal, that's different about me than others that are around me. And it's, as we're growing and our society is growing and we're popping out of this pandemic and there's remote work, I think that diverse umbrella, some of those examples we gave, I think that's going to grow. That's going to grow more and more, because we're being open to different cultures and different individuals working in different areas.
And how's that helping our industry though?
So, I think, that's a great question, Shawn, because I think a lot of companies go directly to what are our stats? Where are we in our pool of diverse individuals? And I think that's great because we're trying to raise awareness about it. But I think that when you go to that place, you're missing part of the boat. You're missing the reason for the drive for diverse individuals. And it's really to ensure that your company is operating through um, diverse lenses, right? To ensure that individuals who have different experiences, different backgrounds, different thought process, were brought up a different way, are supporting you in running your business. Is really like the business running, aspect of it. I mean, as CEOs and leaders like yourself, we've got to ensure that we're fair. We've got to ensure that we have diverse individuals working in the organization so our consumers feel comfortable, because we all know that most of the time we feel comfortable with someone that's a little bit like us, right? But
Mm-hmm.
for me, the primary reason is because I want those different experiences. I want someone that comes from a different background. I want to hear their thoughts and their explanations and how they look at things. To me, that's interesting. And as a culture and as a society, we've got to be open to that.
Right, right. That would always burn me up and kill me, like in leadership in companies that I work. It's like we're servicing these clients, right? And they don't all look like us and they don't all think like us, but here we are making decisions for them,
That's
right?
right.
And if you're not going to be inclusive of that whole thought process or bring people in that have lived that same experience that you're trying to offer to those clients, like what good are we? Like what exactly are we doing here? And so I think there's a tremendous amount, Paul, of innovation that happens when you have that sort of a collaboration in your company. Because if everybody that in my organization or everyone that I ever deal with in my life looks or thinks or acts like me, then it's I don't know where there's much purpose involved in that, right? And I don't know how much impact we're really making. And
Right.
so at the end of the day, with companies and organizations that are trying to really move the needle in a purposeful, positive way, but also be very inclusive to everyone. Um, I can't see why you wouldn't have those diverse ideas, but also embrace them. And so that's where I think the inclusion piece comes in.
Right.
Uh, or equity as well, but the inclusion piece comes in is because also when you bring those individuals in, you have to accept who they are. You have to
Mhm.
accept their thought. You have to accept their voice, because we often give people great seats and we allow them to have seats, but we don't accept their voice and we don't allow them to have the voice. And that's why they're there, is for us to get that information so that we can use that to provide the very best experience with our clients, but also our employees internally as well. So that's my little rant. But
Great.
a part of this conversation, this is something that's super important to me and near and dear to me. And so it's just interesting and exciting to hear you talk about it. I'm glad we're engaged with you. But can you talk about that paid piece now? Let's pivot to the inclusion part. So it's you said the other day, you know, the diversity piece. We talked a good bit about that. I personally think that we've all identified that, and I think that's
Mhm.
something that's on everybody's radar. What
Yeah.
I think that's missing, I think the inclusion part is missing
Right.
based on my experiences. That's what I think that is missing, is the inclusion part. Can you touch on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they go hand in hand a little bit, right? Because you're looking for openness to diverse individuals, and the inclusion part of it is kind of what you were saying just before. From where I sit, my thought process, and that's creating this environment that's inclusive of everyone, creating an environment that is open to those different ideas, that is open to how individuals think, and you could take it one step further and wanting to really understand individuals, what their what their routines are, what their habits are, based on their diversity within their social or home culture, and being open to that within, the walls of the work culture or whatever the case may be. So that inclusion conversation is getting larger and larger again as we as an industry are open to. I mean, how many times do you talk to, Shawn, I've been working with your team for a couple of weeks now on this, education blueprint piece. And I've probably got, I've been in maybe 4 or 5 meetings. And I think most of the team members, most of the time, are working from home, right? So the concept of the inclusion and being inclusive of individuals, who they are truly as individuals, once you're spot on, because once we really concentrate on the inclusion portion of the DE&I acronym, we're really going to understand diversity, because it's going to really move away from, kind of what I said at the beginning. And that's, a lot of companies are doing a great job of checking that box with how many diverse individuals they've got, but that's not creating an inclusive culture. That's not creating a culture that's really open to hearing those different thoughts and different concepts about whatever the subject may be. A different lens, looking through and looking at a process and saying this individual has this idea because of their diversity, and being inclusive to that concept. So I think as we expand that inclusion aspect, we're going to really embrace diversity. And then I honestly think the next movement, or the next acronym, or what we need to concentrate on next, is access. Now, I'm not saying access in regards to my company, Access Lending Academy, but actual access to diverse individuals, to what does it mean to be an inclusive culture. So it's kind of combining everything our industry has been working on, and that's awareness and education on it. But now we need to provide access to move forward with it.
Right. And thanks for that. I really appreciate it. I just know for us, like, we happen to do business with individuals like you mentioned that look like us, and have similar experiences. But for me, our company, we want to do business with everyone, right?
Yeah.
We do, obviously, for not selfish, but yes, selfish reasons. I want to help my community as much as
Yeah.
I possibly can, right?
Absolutely.
However, I want to be known as having the very best mortgage experience. You go to
Yeah.
Fortis, you have the very best experience. And so in order to offer the very best experience, we need diverse individuals, and we need inclusion
Absolutely.
in there, so that we can service everyone that comes here. And so what you're doing is amazing. Um, you remember at first I was just like, I don't understand training versus education. Like, I get it, but why can't I just do the training part?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why this education? I don't want to go back to school. Why this
Our school's
educate?
fun
Why
though.
this educate? Yeah, it is. But why this education thing? And so I get it.
Yeah.
Paul, like, can you tell us any, and then we'll wrap up, but any recent wins that you've had, or just with Access Lending
The wins are on a
Academy?
daily basis. Yeah, the wins are on a daily basis, and one of our board members, and someone I respect highly in our industry, and as an individual, Sue Woodard, about 5 months ago, she said, "Hey, why don't you send us an email, and we'll call it the 3 Rad Weekly Wins, and just share with us things that are going on." And so the wins that I have are, myself, because I interact with our learners, as well as my business partner, Jerry, who's our Dean of Education. We get these emails from our learners that would just make you fall to your knees and sob about how we're transforming their lives, and we're providing them this level of empowerment, and we're caring for them, and we're providing them, skills and tools and opportunity that nobody has ever given them. So really, my wins are when they have amazing interviews, and so we've got 2 individuals that are on their 3rd round of interviews, our recent graduating class. And so to me, that's my purpose. That's like, when I pick up our son Cooper from school and I hear that he had an amazing day, that we're making strides. And every time somebody gets a job, and every time we get feedback, because we support in job placement, right? And so when we do our continuous reviews of how our graduates are doing when they're permanently placed, and we get nothing but applause, those are all of our wins. Because that's my purpose. I'm doing it for these individuals to not have to go through what I went through, and maybe what you went through, Shawn, and really, break the mold, and really have the gumption and the self-empowerment and the self-awareness to step up and be 100% of themselves. Because as diverse individuals, I was talking earlier, we're in this box. It's either ourselves or society, but we're in this box, and it's damn hard to get out. And so I'm here to rip the walls down and put everybody on the same playing field. So those are my biggest wins. Now, I'll say it doesn't hurt when we have an awesome donation, because we are a nonprofit, but the wins really are about the learners.
Got it. So let's get into that too before we transition out. What's it look like? So a couple things. What's it look like to engage with Access Lending Academy? You mentioned the awesome donation.
Yeah.
But what do you offer? What's it
Yeah.
look like to engage with you? And then lastly, what can we do to help your organization?
I love those questions. Thank you. And I'll try to be as quick as possible. So, it's a 90-day program. It includes the most robust education process. The learners are in school 4 days a week, 3 hours a day. They're working their rear end off. We provide them with laptops and workbooks. They go through an entire wellness program, as I mentioned. And when they graduate, we want to support these individuals in entering our industry. Now, so we need placement partners. We need individuals that are looking to hire young, dynamic, diverse individuals who are so dedicated to this purpose and this cause and our industry. And it's not just from lenders. I mean, we love working with Fortis Mortgage, but we've hired a lot of fintech companies have hired our learners, a lot of solution providers, AMCs, because again, they're educating the entire industry. So whatever the solution is or the product is that they offer, our learners understand it from A to Z. So we need support. If anybody has any entry-level positions in the industry, whether you're a lender or solution provider or a fintech company, reach out to Access Lending Academy. We also offer our Blueprint education series, which is what we're doing with Fortis Mortgage, which educates individuals on the entire mortgage lending process. We'll work with your ops team and your admin team and your sales team so that everybody really understands the manufacturing process. And that's a customized education series. And we also offer a customized wellness program. We pulled our wellness program information that we created for our learners into a really robust, customized syllabus education platform for our industry to take advantage of. Right now, more than ever, individuals are feeling a little uncertain. We're out of this crazy pandemic. Our economic time is a little upheaval, our political, our social time. And so Access Lending Academy's wellness program concentrates on right-setting everyone, self-empowerment, self-awareness, and really supporting individuals to come to the table with a whole self approach so they can be 100% of themselves, wherever they are in their life.
Sounds good. That was awesome. You were succinct. Sounds like you got some practice doing that, Paul, saying that.
I've said it a couple times.
and so the donation part, tell us about that, because I think that's important for us to know. Because that's the piece and how we can help the organization.
Absolutely. AccessLendingAcademy.com. Our amazing communications person nicely prompted large donate buttons on our website. It's a beautiful website. We're a 501c3. Any amount supports us. Our learners, my husband and I are this is a bootstrapped organization right now. We're flipping the bill for a lot of this. We have great support with LenderWorks and EscrowTap and Fortis Mortgage, who have donated or who use our products. That it all goes back to our learners, right? But each learner costs us approximately $6,000 to get through the program. And it's not, we don't charge our learners because we want to give them every possible opportunity. Your donations are tax deductible. We're a nonprofit. All that information is up on our website. And, all donations, any donation is greatly appreciated.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you. And so once again, because we're going to put this up in the comments, accesslendingacademy.com. Is that how we would contact you and in your staff and your organization,
Yes,
your team? I should
yes,
say your
sir.
team.
Yep,
Uh,
absolutely. And if you want to have a conversation with me, I talk access throughout the day, throughout the night, in my sleep. So go ahead and hit me up on LinkedIn or my contact information is on our website as well.
Got it. Thank you. accesslendingacademy.com. So Paul, this was great. I wish we had more time. I always like to I'm very conscious and respectful of people's time. And so I want to do that for you because the more people that you can bring into your network, the better it is for CEOs and companies like Fortis. Um, but what we'll end with, we talked a good bit about purpose today, about
Yeah.
purpose, and I love this question because I think this question speaks volumes about purpose. So, Paul, if you had one person that you could speak with or communicate with, I should say, one person, one question, who would it be, and what would you ask?
Oh my gosh, that's super hard. Can I throw a little bit of a monkey wrench in your question?
Yeah,
I'll just,
sure.
can I add a time on that? Right. So can I say like in 30 years?
Yeah, of course. I like that.
Okay.
Whatever,
All right.
whenever.
Cool. So in 30 years, hands down, the person that I would want to speak with is my son. And I would love
Yeah.
nothing more than to sit down with him and have a cohesive conversation with him in 30 or 40 years and ask him what it was like growing up in our family with his papa and his dada and his sister.
That's a great question. What was it like growing up in your family?
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's also a part of so yesterday I did a retreat. And 40 business leaders, friends, family of mine, and the conversation was around who, not what. And
Uh,
so by you saying this, I'm thinking that you're thinking about who, right? Who do
yeah.
you want to be? Like, who
Yeah.
is it that you're going to be? What are you striving for, right? As opposed
Absolutely.
to what are you going to do? And
Yeah.
so, with that particular question, that's actually really cool. I didn't think about that. Maybe I should uh, set my kids up for that to see. Tell them in 30 years, I'm going to ask them what it's like to grow up with mom and dad here in our
Yeah.
household. But that's a great question. Thanks for that,
Absolutely.
Paul.
Yeah, yeah. I
Thanks for that.
thanks for the question. It's like you said, it's part of my purpose, as I talked about, ensuring the success of everyone I interact with, and that success reaches out to my kids. And they were really. This is going to sound cheesy, but they were. He was really the first learner. In ensuring that I could provide him every single tool he needed to be whatever his success was. And so, really that's the base of Access Lending Academy.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Paul, thank you so much. I say it every week, but it would be such a shame that I have a network and people like yourself in it, Paul, that I don't share and we don't share this information. Everyone, if there's anything that I can do to help you in any way, please don't hesitate to reach out. Still remain as safe and as healthy as you possibly can. We'll be back next week. I think we're back next week. And Paul, also, if you know of anyone that's maybe interested in coming on to our live stream, I'd
Yeah.
love to have these conversations. I'm on a bit of a roll. This is you know what? I need to go back and look. I lose count a lot of time, but I think you might be 100.
No
Uh,
way. I'm the
I think you might.
100th podcast.
I'm not sure, but I think you are. I will. I'll
That's
have
pretty
to get
amazing.
back to you on that,
Yeah.
and maybe we'll do a celebration actually and put it up on social media. But thanks for everything. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you, man. That was
Everyone,
so great,
big round of
so fun.
applause
Yeah,
for
thank
Paul.
you.
And we'll be talking soon, Paul.
Absolutely, thank you, my friend. That was a great show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.